I definitely think what is clear is that Germany is now the biggest supporter of Ukraine in Europe, that Germany will continue to assume its responsibility, and that Germany will definitely be part of robust security guarantees. But it's hard to say what the exact format will be, what the exact contribution will be for the time that we don't know what these security guarantees will look like.
Now let's carry on looking at the situation on the ground and talk to Tobias Cremer, who's a former German diplomat and an MEP on committees for relations with NATO and with the United States. Welcome to the programme, Tobias.
Thanks a lot, John, for having me.
Always welcome to us. Can you give me your sense of what kind of American support do you want to hear to make any kind of peacekeeping force really viable?
I mean, if you ask me, the more we can include the Americans, the better. I think it's very, very important here to also understand what Putin's strategy is behind what he's been doing in Alaska, and also over the last couple of days was really to drive a wedge between Ukraine, the Europeans, and the United States. And one thing that we really need to keep the Americans therefore on board is in the security guarantees, and there will be the more American involvement there is, the more robust they will be. This is why I think it's very good news that the Europeans actually managed to thwart Putin's strategy to some extent at least. And that the Americans have now said something they haven't been ready to do before, which is to say we will be backing up any peacekeeping force. And I think we've already mentioned air support will be essential, but I think also things like strategic enablers, when we think about intelligence, when we think about all of these things in the background.
It's not at all clear what American air support might actually mean, though, is it? Because President Trump has referred to American support a couple of times this week without giving any kind of sense of what that might mean. Now, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, that's America's top military commander, he's meeting his opposite numbers from Europe and in support of Ukraine today in Washington. I don't know, you can't really be very optimistic they're going to be finding out a lot more, can you?
No, I think at this station, I think it's normal that you can't find out too much too quickly. I mean, these are also very technically military, tactical, and strategic questions. And in some ways, it's good that these discussions are going on behind doors, that we are consulting very, very closely. I'm also quite glad that it's Marco Rubio leading that and not somebody in the Trump administration who would be more on the MAGA isolationism front. But I think these things will now take a little bit of time, and I'd rather wait 1 or 2 days more to hear the details than having speculation in what way that might go. I think at the moment it's good that they are negotiating that. It's good that it's happening behind doors, and I think this really shows that we are united in this respect for now.
Is the German position clear now? Because there have been mixed messages, I think, about whether or not Germany would be ready to put troops on the ground in Ukraine at all. And we've had some, at one moment we hear the answer is yes, the other moment we're hearing maybe the answer is no. What is the answer?
The answer, don't blame me for being a diplomatic answer, but I think the mode of how we will get involved will depend on the force itself. I definitely think what is clear is that Germany is now the biggest supporter of Ukraine in Europe, that Germany will continue to assume its responsibility, and that Germany will definitely be part of robust security guarantees. But it's hard to say what the exact format will be, what the exact contribution will be for the time that we don't know what these security guarantees will look like. Because, I mean, if you think about it, there's all sorts of different models. There will be the air defense part. There will also be like really continuing to strengthen Ukraine. And then there might be training missions, etc. In some ways, the strongest guarantee against Russian invasion, future invasion, is really strengthening also the Ukrainian army, which is by now probably the most one of the most robust and strong and capable armies on the European continent.
Yeah, I think it's also true, isn't it, that the different parts of the German ruling coalition have different views on the question of the German contribution to this force. But mind you, this is literally just come in while we're speaking here. It's a line out of this NATO meeting that's going on. The chair of the military committee, the NATO military committee, says, great candid discussion among NATO chiefs of defence, confirmed our support on Ukraine. And if you want to look for something vague and obscure, you couldn't do very much better than that, could you? At the moment, though, Tobias, Putin it seems to be exercising a veto on the involvement of various friends of Ukraine in any kind of reassurance force after a peace, if and when there's a peace. Putin can't be allowed to exercise that veto, can he?
No, absolutely with you on that. This should be negotiations among Ukraine supporters and Ukraine. We don't, I mean, at the same time, we don't ask Russia whether they are okay with us defending our own soil, whether they are okay with us supporting Ukraine. Of course, Russia is not okay with that, but that shouldn't stop us. This is about strengthening Ukraine's negotiating position at this moment and also putting pressure on Russia. And I think we should be very, very clear that there can't be a veto of Russia. I mean, this is also one of the things where previous negotiations faltered and failed was in early 2023, I think, when Russia actually said, okay, security guarantees are okay, but we will have a veto. Then it's not a security guarantee. Right. If Russia can just invade and say, oh, you can't defend yourself, that's not a security guarantee, that's just void.
Indeed. Surely that must be right. Tobias Cremer, former German diplomat and MEP, thank you for joining us.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. How are you? Good to see all of you.
When it comes to the security guarantees, what is the current status of that? I know the President earlier today mentioned boots on the ground would be UK, France, Germany possibly, but unequivocally said no U.S. troops on the ground, but U.S. coordination. Can you elaborate on that and what would the red lines be?
Sure. Well, you got to the heart of what I was going to say to all of you today on security guarantees, which is the President has definitively stated U.S. boots will not be on the ground in Ukraine, but we can certainly help in the coordination and perhaps provide other means of security guarantees to our European allies. The President understands security guarantees are crucially important to ensure a lasting peace, and he has directed his national security team to coordinate with our friends in Europe and also to continue to cooperate and discuss these matters with Ukraine and Russia as well.
Helen, now,
Antitrust Division is working.
I have no idea who that individual is. That ultimately the President has always said that there are areas of disagreement in this war that will have to be discussed and decided upon by these two countries. And so he wants these two countries to engage in direct diplomacy. He's said that from the very beginning, which is why he's agreeable to the idea of having President Zelensky and President Putin get together. And I understand accommodations for that meeting are underway. As soon as we hear more details, we'll be sure to let all of you know.
And just a quick follow-up.
The European leaders do.
Well,
And President Putin himself said that, by the way.
He did say that.
Haley.
Hey, thanks, Caroline. You made clear no U.S. boots on the ground. Is the President considering U.S. boots in the air as a form of a security guarantee?
Look, that was something the President mentioned on his interview this morning. It is an option and a possibility. I won't certainly rule out anything as far as military options that the President has at his disposal. I'll let him do that. I can tell you he's definitively ruled out boots on the ground. Sure. He remains determined to do that. Go ahead.
Can you confirm that Putin suggested Moscow as a venue for the bilateral talks? And if so, doesn't that indicate that Putin is perhaps not serious about this, that he's suggesting a venue that there's no way that Zelensky is going to go to?
Look, I'm not going to litigate the private conversations between the President and President Putin, aside from what the President himself has already spoken on. But I can tell you there are many options that are being discussed by our national security team right now with both parties.
Can you give us an indication of where?
I just told you we'll provide you details as soon as we can. Thank you for trying, though. Libby.